Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I'm Alex, founder of the Happy PharmD, and today we're talking about going from retail to remote and prior authorizations. Uh, what you're going to learn tonight is hanging out with me and Adnan. He's a pharmacist out of Michigan, and we helped him through our program called Offer in Six now, where we help pharmacists transition into jobs that they love. And if you're interested in hanging out with me in a workshop where it's private and smaller, you can do that by going in this link. We'll talk more about that later. But if you're logging in live and you're watching it live, I'd love to know where you're calling in from, maybe area of pharmacy practice that you're in. Either way, let me know where you're from. I always love doing a contest to see who's the furthest away. The furthest away that we ever got was Cameroon. So maybe tonight is the night that I can finally break a record. With me tonight, I am joined by Adnan. He's going to be sharing his story about how he transitioned out of retail into a remote job. And we'll talk a little bit about his job, what he does, how he transitioned into it. And tonight, you're going to learn some tips and tricks to help you get started on whatever career path that you're going, whether it's remote, prior auth, or even something else. Hey, Miranda, good to see you. Last time I was in Oregon, it was beautiful, but it's been a while. It's been a while. Hey, Katana from New Jersey. Oh, you're right in the thick of pharma jobs and probably remote as well. Hey, Tracy. Hey, it's good seeing you. What's up, Nashville? Hey, Nader in Texas. Hello, LinkedIn user from Georgia. I probably can't see your name because we're not connected first degree, but not a big deal. There's lots of LinkedIn users from Georgia. Happy to have you guys here. Okay, so let's get right down to it. Adnan, welcome to the stage. Hey,
Yeah,
how's it
unmute
going?
myself. I'm doing well. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for inviting me, Alex.
Yeah, of course. And if you have a question as we go through Adnan's story, feel free to pop a question. We can always show it live and try to answer it. Um, so Adnan, before you started working with us, before you got this remote job, you were a pharmacist. Yeah. What were you doing
Yep.
previously?
So initially, I graduated in 2018. I started out in the independent setting where I was managing a retail pharmacy and a home infusion. Was kind of both in the same facility. I did that for 2.5 years. It was a bit of a commute, um, an hour there and an hour back. So eventually that became tiring. Got married, started a family, and I needed something closer. So after that, I worked with Rite Aid, which was only about a 20-minute drive. I did that for 2.5 years through the pandemic, some of the
Mm.
most stressful times during my career. And then as soon as it got a little bit difficult, I kind of like I realized I'm not gonna be doing this forever. Like it's impossible. I'm gonna break down, hit a wall. So what I did was I plotted my way out. At first, I tried to do it on my own. I thought it was as simple as let me just update my resume. I do have a little bit of clinical experience with my home infusion background. So I did my
Hmm.
best. I applied to many, many jobs and I didn't get the result that I wanted. Work became more and more stressful, more and more unbearable. And I came across, I was actually familiar with you, Alex, for a while. You were very present on LinkedIn. And so it was only a matter of time that I was going to reach out to you. And eventually I did muster up the courage to reach out. Um, I mean, it's
You
like
were so
the
brave.
way that I
So brave.
yeah, well, it was pharmacists, I think, like we're very conservative about spending money towards ourselves. I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I felt like I can do it on my own, and eventually I had to be honest with myself. I needed someone who has experience, a lot more experience than me, so I thought of it as an investment. I'm going to spend a little bit of money, and eventually it's going to, increase um, the likelihood that I'll land a job that I'm going to enjoy, and my work-life balance is going to be much better. And so
Mm.
I did that, and I don't know how long it was between me joining and me eventually landing a job, but yeah, it was a success. So
Good. Well, we'll get to that. When when did you make the decision that you wanted to leave your current job?
not my most recent job prior to prior
Right. Yeah.
authorizations at
The
Rite
Rite
Aid.
Aid. Right. Hmm. Uh oh. Looks like there's a little
Yeah,
bit
I
of
mean,
delay.
not long after I got the job. In fact, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, so when I took the Rite Aid job, it was more supposed to be a transition. Like I knew this wasn't something that I was going to do forever. I just didn't know how long I was going to need to do that job before I eventually get the job that I wanted.
Mm,
And I didn't realize how urgent the situation was until I realized it was so unbearable. You know,
mm,
I thought, hey, if I have to do it for 5 years or however many years, so be it. I'll still be making six figures. It might be a little bit rough, and then, you just put up with it, right? I mean, no job is going to be, absolutely perfect, but it was so unbearable. I was desperate to get out, and that's when the situation like I realized I had to do something, and that's when I reached out. So
mm.
to answer your question, it was definitely something I didn't plan on doing very long. I always plotted my way out, but to do it strategically, probably like within a year or so, that's when I
Okay.
realized I have to reach, I have to get help.
So that's like 2022, right? If I know the
Yeah, that's about right, yeah.
yeah. What we know is that most pharmacists give up the job search 95% um, around 6 weeks. And usually what happens is they try for a couple of weeks, then life happens, vacation happens, kids get sick, something distracts you, and then you wait maybe a month or two or three, and then you have a bad day, and then you get back into it. Um,
That's exactly what happened. It was in spurts.
yeah,
I dedicate a weekend to do it hardcore, apply to as many jobs as I can, and that didn't land anything. So then I, forget about it for a while, and then I have a bad interaction with somebody or just in general, and that kind of motivates me. Okay, I really need to get out,
yeah,
and then I do it again and again and again. So yeah, it wasn't really structured. It was just I'm really frustrated. I need to find a way out, and then that doesn't work. Forget about it for a while, and then rinse and repeat.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of like you're wanting to lose weight, but you go to the gym, once every 6 weeks. Like, eh,
Exactly.
you're doing a little bit of good, but maybe not the best. How did it feel looking for a new job?
I mean, I felt miserable because I knew I
Sorry
had
to bring it up.
I knew I possessed the skills to do the job, but it was just a matter of convincing people. Um, I mean, not even people, convincing algorithms that my retail experience um, doesn't like it does translate into whatever job that I'm applying for.
Mm,
But it's just the stigma. It was so frustrating. Like you just couldn't get it off of you. You're just a retail pharmacist. You just know how to bottle medications and things like that. I was not able to convince anyone in the hiring process that I didn't even get an interview, you know? So, yeah, it was frustrating.
yeah, that's very frustrating. It's really common, unfortunately. I think what most people don't know about looking for a job is job boards account for 20% for all hires. And so that, unfortunately, job boards is where people spend like 90% of their time. So you decided to do something really different. You got really brave and you spoke to this super intimidating guy. You reached out on LinkedIn, right? I think.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, a couple times I think I was just kind of inquiring about it, and then I gave you guys a call.
Yeah. She talked with one of our team members. Had you ever worked with a coach before?
I did, yeah.
Oh, really?
Morgan.
No, no, no. I'm sorry. No, did you work with a coach before us?
Oh, no, 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 no. You guys were my first, yeah.
Do you remember what? Well, coaching is very new to pharmacists. It seems like a foreign concept, I think, to some people. Some people can relate to like sports coaches. Now that you've gone through the experience, what would you say like a coach does?
So, a lot. So, like, there's the emotional aspect of it because when I feel like when people eventually reach out to Alex, they're already beaten up. They already lost their confidence. This Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now.
Yeah. So I was just saying, like, I feel like a lot of the people that you deal with, they lost their confidence. They're kind of frustrated at this point of the process, right? You're not getting like pharmacists that are, you know, in their best shape. And so, um, what was helpful was getting kind of the emotional support from my coach, letting me know that, like, you do have the skills. I know to you tried a lot on your own to get the job that you wanted and it didn't work out, but it's more of a strategic thing, so don't be discouraged about it. So there was the emotional support, and of course there was the actual strategy that was very helpful in terms of understanding the bigger picture, and that it's not as simple as just submitting a resume. Even if you have a great resume, it's not that simple. There's a lot more nuance to it. um, Establishing connections with people, um, understanding the what you want, what exactly what I mean. People just want to transition out of retail, and that's not enough. What I learned from the program is you need to have a very specific approach, um, and tailoring the training to figure out what I wanted and then strategically getting to where I want it to be.
Yeah.
So all of these things, the emotional support, the strategic side of it, and figuring out what I wanted. So yeah, it was multifaceted.
Yeah. In the beginning, when I first started the business, we found a lot of people who were burnt out, like what you shared. And what we've learned over time is that we can definitely help those people. But if you're burned out, the best thing that I can advise you to do is to take a break, like a long break, like medical leave break. Um, because even if you do work with a coach, it can be really hard to even adjust how you're thinking about yourself and the value that you could bring to another company. You're right. Imposter syndrome and a belief that you don't have something to bring to the table is rampant in the industry. Um, so many people don't even apply to jobs because they don't think they meet the qualifications or the preferences for the job. Um, but we found that even people practicing with residencies or at the top of their game find that, oh, I'm a PGY2 clinical care specialist. I don't know if I could go do pharma or get another job in a different department. It's wild to me. And I think It's even why we have so many certifications to like soothe this imposter syndrome phenomenon in people. That's a whole other subject for another day. But I think that's a good description. I like to think of coaches as really clear mirrors. If you're going to shave your beard, Adnan, you got to use a mirror, right? To do a good job, anyway. Ladies, put it on makeup, right? We have to see ourselves in order to make adjustments to what you're doing differently. What did your coach help you change about your approach to the job market?
Well, first she helped me figure out what I wanted, and that was a long process. At first, it came down to not exactly like, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, it wasn't like that, but it was more like, what are you looking for exactly? Are you looking for work-life balance? Are you working for, you know, less patient interaction because you're just, tired of it? Are you looking for remote? Are you looking to interact with doctors? So initially, that was the ask from my coach, was trying to figure out that aspect of it, and in the end, we ended up with a lot of job titles that I could have pursued, and then we narrowed it down further, and then it was about um, getting to the right people on LinkedIn who can help me get these jobs. So I mean, it's a long process, the editing the resumes and all that stuff, watching the trainings on your website. So it was a long process, but I think the first thing, probably the first thing was building up my confidence, because when you apply for hundreds of jobs and you get rejected, you lose that confidence. I don't care how confident you were to start. Eventually you're going to believe that you're not good enough. And so that, and then also I was at that time I had family health issues. Um, so my coach was even comforting me from that aspect too, to push on and whatnot. So um, but yeah, the first thing was, kind of like emotionally stabilizing me. And
Yeah.
then after that was narrowing down what I wanted to do.
Mm. Yeah, that's the first step that we focus on with everyone. Um, I mean, not so much, well, I mean, confidence is a part of it. But
Mhm.
are you going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to add that it wasn't like, hours and hours on end. We were talking about, my situation at the time, but just little comments here and there to kind of boost me up in my lows, and I'm sure
Yeah.
that Morgan, as well as your other coaches, have had these interactions with other pharmacists too. Because, like I said, I mean, we're reaching out to you because we need help, and if we got if we got an interview, within the first week or so, but prior to reaching out to you, then there would be no need to reach out. So,
Yeah. As a coach, we're trained to notice what you're saying or focused on. It happened today. I had a workshop that I was doing. Actually, the workshop I talked about earlier in this live call that I'll talk about again at the end. But someone said verbatim, I'm not getting noticed because there's nothing special about me. And she said it from such a raw place, and there was no condemnation about it. But the truth is that the environment that we work in healthcare is really good at convincing us that we're replaceable, that we don't create a lot of value. And that does things to our mind and our confidence. And on top of that, if you start applying and you don't get noticed, it's really easy to just convince yourself, I guess I have a worthless degree, or I guess no one cares. But, interestingly, Eugene Choi, who's a pharmacist on our team, recently told me about this pretty monumental study where they found that They were studying how people were successful over time in their careers, and they found that only 10% of the results to what they got, promotions, new jobs, new opportunities, was allocated to your performance. So, like how well you did your job, 10%. The other 40% was impression. So, how people saw you, the impression that you gave off, your branding, you could almost call it. And the other 40% was exposure. So, who you knew, what opportunities you were presented at work, how you approach those opportunities with just what you were exposed to. Everyone is very focused on just doing a good job when that's only accounts for like 10%. So fast forward us a little bit through your journey. You start identifying the career paths that you want to get into. Obviously, a part of our program, we heavily encourage networking as a part of our process. How did that go for you for your application, your networking, and even your brand, I suppose, on LinkedIn? Uh-oh.
So I did establish connections with a lot of people, and I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do even in the program. I just knew I wanted to work remotely. I wanted to spend more quality time with my family. And so I wasn't sure. I knew it was going to be either pharma um, or it was maybe prior authorization because I think it's worth mentioning. I did have an Upwork account. So Upwork is a website where you can do some freelancing, right? And so I don't even know how I did it, but I managed to do retail while also um, managing my Upwork account. And I actually came across a small PBM company. It's called Transparent RX, and I landed a part-time gig with them, and that was kind of what opened the door for me to again network a little bit more and then find a full-time job where I'm at right now. But the program taught me the important lessons about, like you mentioned, it doesn't matter your metrics really. It's more about how you present yourself and creating the Upwork account, updating my LinkedIn. All of these things help me present the product. I am the product. Um, so, which I think helped me eventually land this job. But yeah, it was not the traditional um, way of landing a job where you're networking, you find someone who's in the company, and then you find your way in. But more of just kind of putting myself out there to land a gig and then putting that gig on my resume. Now I have uh, prior authorization experience, right? So when I applied for the job, it was easy, and I was kind of blown away by that. Like, I got the interview right away, and then I got the job a couple days later, and I
Whoa.
was yeah, I was surprised. Like, I worked this hard for this many years to try to get out of retail, and all I needed to do was my most recent job just had to be prior authorization, and it didn't matter if it was, you know, 2 hours a week, but as long as you have that title, then oh, okay, you can do the job. But when really I could have done the job coming out of retail like easily. So
Yep.
um, which emphasizes the points that you guys taught us in the program. Um, but
Yep.
yeah.
A lot of people believe they can't do certain things in pharmacy because they don't have any experience doing it. Just for context, uh, if you have a degree and a license, not everyone does, but most do. And if you do, you can do a lot of different jobs within pharmacy. every job can be broken down into soft or hard skills. And no matter what you're doing, you probably have practiced the same soft and hard skills that are in different contexts, different job industries, different kinds of jobs. And if you can relate your experience, your hard skills or soft skills to what they need, it can be really easy to apply and have conversations and start getting more interviews. So, add on for you, uh, you started with us last year, I think around April. And
That sounds
then
right.
did you do the Upwork account before or during the coach program?
I think during. I think I did it during
Okay, so you got the part-time
about what
gig.
she thought of it, and she was
Oh,
very
sorry.
encouraging. And yeah. No, go on.
I interrupted you. There's a little bit of a delay. That's my bad.
No, you're fine. Yeah, it was during the program, and I mean, so I got a little bit of experience with several articles, uh,
Uh-oh. I can
um,
fill in the blanks if you're listening live.
kind of
Um,
exposed me to.
your connection.
Yeah, did I cut out?
Yeah, just a little bit. I think I can fill in the blanks. So you started an Upwork account. You
Mhm.
got medical writing and an information experience, as well as a prior authorization part-time job through Upwork. Um, so for those of
Correct. Yeah.
anyone who's not aware, Upwork is a freelancing platform that's not well known in healthcare, but it is basically a job board, but more like contract focused, like short term kind of thing. So Adnan basically got a part time job through that, and that exposed him to different opportunities within managed care. So I was curious to know about your full time job now. You're currently a remote prior authorization pharmacist. Um, how did you find out about the job?
It just popped up on Indeed. And well, actually, let me backtrack. So I just put my application up on Indeed with my updated uh, prior authorization experience as a part-time gig. And right away, within a matter of a day or so, um, a contracting company reached out to me, and they were like really pushy about having me apply for the job with CVS Caremark. Um, that's when I felt like I was onto something because I people recruiters and they avoided me like the plague. We're a dime a dozen people with retail experience. So it was strange to me. As soon as I updated my resume, boom, I'm already being sought out for. And after that, I got the interview probably a few days later, and I can sense that during my interaction in the interview, like it was very positive. They were really really interested in having me in the company, and I think that was kind of a breaking point. Also, feeling wanted, feeling valued. Prior to that, working in retail, you're always replaceable. If you don't like the job, there's a bunch of people that are willing to do it, and it doesn't matter. Like I feel like speaking for myself, I was an overachiever in the retail side. As much as I didn't like it, I still gave it my all. I cared about my patients. I cared about the metrics. But it didn't really matter. It didn't elevate me as much as it would in other fields, like the field that I'm in currently. And so just based off of that interaction, I felt very positive about it. And then a couple days later, I got the call that they accepted me for the position. And the rest is history. And like I said, having this job, um, my metrics are actually valued. I can see my supervisor looking at my hard work, right? And then they have the understanding that if you keep this up, you're going to be going places within the company. You're not going to just be static here and, for 10 years and, get couple percentage pay bumps and maybe one day you're going to be expendable and, you're just going to have to find another job somewhere else and start from zero again. Um, and then another thing is transitioning into where I'm at right now. Um, I think the hardest part is getting yourself in the door. After that, if I want to leave CVS, I can leave CVS and go to a different company. We're not dime a dozen, right? There's a certain threshold that has to be met within the pharmacy community of, having this experience. So I think it's silly that that's the case, but I can use that to my advantage and I can be more picky. And,
Mm.
I have options now. Um, but yeah, getting the job was the most difficult aspect, and it was a smooth transition getting out of retail.
What's a day in the life like of a prior auth pharmacist?
Um, so it's very smooth. I have my whole setup here, two monitors. I wake up. I don't have to wake up an hour early, 2 hours early. It's remote, so wake up, shower, walk into the room, sometimes still in my pajamas, turn my computer on, and there's a certain application that we use, and we go through each prior authorization. If it's for just to give you a simple one like Wegovy, there's there or yeah like Zepbound. Um, there's a certain question set that I'm sure you guys are all familiar with, a certain question set that the doctor has to fill out, and then it has to be answered in a certain way. If they supply chart notes, depending on, like, for example, Zepbound, they have to meet a certain BMI in order to qualify for it. And so, that's one PA. And then after that, you open up the next PA and so on and so forth. We get a 30-minute break for lunch and two 15-minute breaks. The 30-minute break is unpaid. The two 15-minute breaks are paid. So we get a total of an hour throughout an 8-hour work shift, 5 days a week. For me, starting out, I had the luxury to decide what schedule I wanted, whether it was going to be standard Monday through Friday, Saturday through Monday through Friday, Tuesday through Saturday, or Sunday through Thursday. I chose the Sunday through Thursday schedule so I can have a day of the week where I can take care of things while places are still open. Um, so there's a lot of flexibility. If I want a day off, it's not like the retail side where um, you have to coordinate with a friend of yours that works in a different store. Can you pick up my shift? Because I know the district leader is going to give me hell for it. You know what I mean? Like, there's a pool of pharmacists. They're just going to have to pick up the slack here in where I'm working right now. And even the slack is not that much because when you have 100 pharmacists working prior authorizations, if one pharmacist calls off, it's not a big deal. Um, so there's that. There's the PTO. Um, you don't feel guilty. I remember taking PTO, like I felt guilty, number one, and number two, I knew that when I come back, I was going to be, I was going to have a big mess to clean up, having
Mm.
floaters, working my shifts. So yeah, like just all in all, it's such a shift from my retail experience. Now I understand a lot of people that are watching probably have different experiences, not necessarily all retail, but just speaking from my experience, it's night and day.
How is remote life? Is it everything that you dreamed and more?
Yeah, yeah, it is, to be honest. And I'm not sure if it is because I have such low expectations. It doesn't take much to make me happy, or if it is just, inherently what it is. But jokes aside, I love it, honestly. I feel like I have a life. For the last 5 years, my first job, it was an hour commute there, an hour commute back. It was a 10 to 6 schedule, so I had to wake up early to leave. By the time I came back, it was already 7:30, time to go to sleep, wake up, do it again. And then the stress of working through the pandemic at Rite Aid really took a toll on me. And even then, like 13-hour shifts, sometimes back to back to back.
Yeah.
It was really rough. And so having just a normal job, Monday through Friday, or in my case, Sunday through Thursday, and it's an 8-hour shift. I remember in the beginning, I didn't know what to do with myself. I finished work, and then I just felt like, you know, I wasn't used to having so much spare time. Of course now I'm busy regardless, but
You
you
filled the
know,
time.
exactly. The
Yeah.
wife and kids will find a way. So, um,
Yeah,
but
you have
yeah,
kids.
I do.
W- One of the downsides that I tell people that remote brings is that you don't get out of your house very often, and that your kids can easily interrupt your work. Has that been a problem for you?
I have a nice setup. I mean, not necessarily. Occasionally, I don't know if you guys heard, but you might have heard the kids in the background.
No.
Occasionally that, okay, good. That might happen. But the thing is, like, I'm not on phones a lot. Where what I do right now, the occasional phone call to the doctor's office, occasional meeting, group meeting. But other than that, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. Um, it is kind of kind of like it's they kind of guilt trip you a little bit because you're always present, but you're not. And
Yes.
so and so it's like you always feel like you're not doing enough with them. That's the only downside, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's not what we coach about. I think that's called dad guilt or mom guilt,
Yeah.
depending on what role you play. Um, yeah, I've worked through that as well. I hope you transform as I have gotten through it. You have two kids, right?
I have two, yeah. 4 and 2.
Okay, so they don't get it. They don't understand.
Mm,
Dad's home. Why can't he play? Right?
Exactly, exactly. But I make time. Like that's the thing. There's an abundance of time. If I want, I get off work at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. And so, there's never a day where I'm like, I'm so exhausted. I need to sleep for 5 hours before I can do anything. That used to be the case when I was working 13-hour shifts. Like the day off following, I was gone the whole day.
Mhm.
There was nothing I can do. So it was basically a waste of time. But yeah, like I get off work at 4:30 and I have energy, I have time, I have motivation to, even if it's something simple like just going for a walk around the block. So, and kids, they have low expectations. They just want to spend time with you. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, like it's really during the work shift. It's like, why is he here, but he's not playing with us? Yeah,
Yes. My kids are older now, 10 and 12, and they get it now. They get it now, but I do get occasionally asked, "Oh, the PlayStation's not working, Dad. Like, you're not doing something so important that I can't ask you for help."
right.
But I think I would rather have that problem than even just like a 30-minute commute, because that's
Oh
an
yeah.
hour a day gone,
Yeah,
wasted.
tell me about it. And then like the stress of driving through snow. You're from Michigan.
Yeah, I get
Um,
it.
yeah, the cold and all that. Oh my God.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
have to I don't worry like if it's snowing, oh that's nice. The snow looks pretty, you know?
Ashley wrote a nice comment about you. She said, "Former Rite Aid pharmacist too. I thought I'd be there for life." uh, Trying to break into the remote sphere. She says, "Thanks for sharing."
Of course.
Yeah, you got out of Rite Aid, by the way, at the right time, right? If you haven't checked out
Yeah,
my newsletter that I published through LinkedIn, they just announced closing all of the Michigan and Ohio
they
pharmacies.
did. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
not
rough.
good. Not good. Um, One thing I hesitated in asking this, but I think it's important. One thing that I think that stops pharmacists sometimes from even applying to remote jobs that they would qualify for is the negative thought of, if I apply to this, then I'm stuck in this role and I can only ever apply to these kinds of jobs. Um, is that how you're feeling right now?
No. I feel like once you break out of the retail side, I feel like I can transition to a lot more than I thought I could have with just my retail experience. So I feel like I can break into the industry side of things much more easily. I feel like I can
Mm,
get into medical writing. Even putting aside my medical writing experience, it would be a lot easier to do that if I wanted to work within like a government job within a university, things like that. I hate to say it, but I feel like the retail experience holds us back a lot. We're just not thought of as being capable. Um, and it's this perception, this public perception that all we do is, fill prescription bottles. But we do a lot more than that. We're checking for drug interactions. We're multitasking like crazy. The thing is with this job, my metrics are really, really good, and it's only good because of my retail experience. That helped me to really multitask, work fast. I feel like it's easy. Like I'm putting in 80%, sometimes 60, 70% effort, and I'm still meeting my quotas and my peers who maybe got this job straight out of graduation, or maybe they did their PGY 1 or 2. They're not having that much ease with doing it. So I think we're more than capable, coming from a retail background, but it's just a matter of convincing the algorithms, convincing the hiring manager to believe in you. That's the most difficult part.
mm. Yeah, well, that's what we talk about in our program, right? What would you say to someone who's maybe considering working with a career coach, i.e., us, but maybe is like on the fence about moving forward?
I think the question to ask is why. What's the thing that's holding you back? If it's like for me, it was the cost. Not so much the cost, but like kind of like a false sense of confidence. I can do it myself, and that's kind of inherent with working in the retail setting because you're used to doing things on your own. Oh, my technician called off. I guess I'm just gonna have to work twice as hard today.
Mm,
And so we have almost too much belief in ourselves. And so, the investment is not really that much, especially when you take into consideration the huge effect that it's going to have on your life and perhaps on your salary. You might the job that you transition to doesn't necessarily have to be, a pay cut. And that's not the case with me. I'm open to share how much I used to make and how much I make right now. Like
okay.
from the retail side in Michigan, I was making a little bit over 60, and I'm making 60 right now per hour. So um, it wasn't that much of a dip in pay, and it's something that it's always going to increase, right? Like with the Rite Aid store closures, um, all the pharmacists that were there for 15 years were probably getting in the 70s, or I don't know, maybe the 80s. And so they had to find a job. They probably went to CVS and Walgreens, and they're back to, the $60 range. So that can happen to any one of us. We can have our store close, or in this case, our chain close, and all of the hard work that you put in over the years are going to dissolve into nothingness. So,
Mm,
and that's the thing about transitioning into something, that a career that's going to actually add more value to yourself for the rest of your life. I think that my experience 5 years from now, if I decide to stay with CVS Caremark, I'm always my pay scale is always going to come with me. If I decide to go to Optum, or if I decide to just make a transition into a totally different setting, that comes with me. My experience comes with me. Um, I kind of veered off from your original question. What was it again?
Well, I think what you're talking about is like, hard sense money. And we just started tracking this kind of data. The average client who negotiates um, in our program gets $7,000 more annual.
Wow.
Did you negotiate when you accepted the job offer?
I was desperate. I was desperate. I was desperate. I was okay with whatever. Um, but
Yeah.
but but it was a contracting job, right?
Okay.
So they originally offered me 58 and I accepted it. And then
Mm.
uh, as the contract was coming to an end, maybe like a month or so before, I let them know that, listen, I'm doing really well at this job. I'm getting all types of praise from my from my supervisor. I need a pay raise. And of course there's resistance. Why? You're doing fine at 58. Like why do you, why do you need a pay raise, you know? Um and but then, okay, I'll talk to my supervisor, blah blah blah. But I was really pushy, and eventually they matched my 60. And then when
Hey,
I converted from a contractor to full time with CVS, I could have negotiated to get something more, but me personally, I was okay with it. It wasn't a deal breaker. Um,
that's really common. Not everyone who joins our program is like, I want more money. Uh,
yeah.
Pharmacists aren't salespeople, like money really isn't our motivator. It's helping people. And so we would like to be happy and helping people. Um, for some people, it's about asking for more time off, or maybe it is making more money. I think that was really smart of you to negotiate after performance,
Hmm.
especially probably the 3 month mark. So that was really good. 9 times out of 10, pharmacists do not negotiate their offers outside of our program. I'm not surprised that you didn't as well, but that's not going to happen again, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Any final thoughts or words about your experience working with us?
I think that working with professionals who have done this for many people before you and will work with many people after you, you're going to understand the big picture, and that's essential because yeah, I got the job through networking, but outside of the program, but the learning the essential like kind of basics of this is what you want to do, this is what you want your resume to look like, this is how you want to. I mean, you touched on negotiating your salary. All of these finer points, you're not going to find them all in one place, right? You can trial and error for the next God knows how many years and eventually figure all these details out on your own, or you can get them all in one place, expedite the time that it'll take for you to eventually land a job. And I
Mhm.
think that's the reason why everyone is here watching this presentation. Everyone is applying is because you're not applying for a job next year. You're applying for a job now. You really need this job right now. And so if you're that desperate to get out of the situation that you're in right now and you're pressed for time, go ahead and invest on yourself to make that transition, and you won't regret it. Like honestly, when I paid what I paid to join the program, like there was a sense of what if it doesn't work? I just wasted all this money. But I don't have not even an ounce of regret. Like it worked out exactly like how I wanted. I'm still in disbelief. Like I started in November of last year, and I still kind of like am still waking up thinking, look, I actually have a job that I enjoy. Now, not every job, it's not perfect. Like there's always going to be things that you don't like, but it's within the what I can tolerate, like way within what I can tolerate. And so,
Do you still have retail nightmares?
yes, all the time, all the time. I have friends that work in retail still. Occasionally I'll go to the pharmacy and I just want to hug the pharmacist and give them a shoulder to cry on. Like
Yeah.
I've been in your shoes, I know what it's like. And anytime I interact with the pharmacist in the retail setting, like I try to be as friendly as possible because it's tough.
Yeah, it feels good to be nice to them.
Yeah.
Um, I was in line as well for getting my wife's prescription from a pharmacy, and a woman started yelling at me because she thought I was in the wrong line and started yelling at the pharmacist. And I was like, "Step off! Like, I'm in the right line. You're in the right line. You don't need to be yelling."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that felt good." I felt bad for her though, the pharmacist that talked to me.
Yeah.
Anyways, Adnan, thank you for your story. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate
My
it.
pleasure.
I'm going to have you step backstage for a moment as I hopefully invite you to hang out with me. This is the link. If you go to thehappypharmd.com/offer in six, the word six, it'll take you to a questionnaire where we'll ask you a few questions, learn a little bit more about you, make sure that you're a right fit for our program. And in this, you're hanging out with me. It's a workshop, it's way more intimate. You get to actually ask me questions and stuff. And I talk to you about how we work with people. I get into the finer details of the things that you need to do in order to get noticed in the job market, whether it's transitioning into something else, pharma, remote, whatever it is that you're wanting. And you're going to learn a lot and gain some action steps that will help you get noticed in today's market. I am, I think I have a few spots available later this week, but I know next week is open as well. We have a few different times on different days. So after you fill out the questionnaire, it'll show you the times that were available. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Thank you all again for hanging out with me today. I hope you had a great day and a great rest of your week. Thank you all, and thanks again to Adnan.